Hello class! Welcome again to World Literature 2. We are going on a journey around the globe and through texts written from the 1660s until today. So, we are going to watch a play, read an essay, read poems, read short stories, and we will be working on our own writing too. There are discussion board questions to answer for each reading, as well as 2 essay assignments for the course. There's an essay in week 3 and an essay assignment in week 4. In addition to those activities, there's also VoiceThread assignments, and that's where you record a verbal response to a question. There are quizzes for the module, and the quizzes contain multiple choice and true-false questions. The questions are about the reading, obviously, the authors and their background, and also literary terms, important vocabulary terms that we'll learn this semester. Then there's also a class presentation at the end where you will do a little bit of internet research on one of the authors we read and then present your findings to the class. This is all in addition to midterm and final exams. So, when all of these activities add up, there are over 1,000 points possible in this course. The writing assignments, like the discussion board questions and the essay assignments, are weighted heavily. If you look at the syllabus, you'll see that all of the discussion board activities put together amount to 400 points, and that both of the essay assignments put together amount to 200 points. So, make sure that you take your time to do a good job on your writing. Use proper grammar, use good vocabulary, and make sure your writing is organized. Each discussion board is worth 5 points. So those points are based on the grammar, your argument, your use of evidence from the reading, and how well you respond to another classmate. That is also part of the discussion grade. So, there's lots of things to do here, and one thing I want you to remember before we get started about the writing in this class: it all must be done in your own words, meaning without the assistance of any AI chatbot like ChatGPT. I am only interested in what you write about what you read in this class. I can easily detect with other software and with my own eyes if someone has been using an AI chatbot in their responses. And if you do that, that tells me 2 things. It tells me, 1, you did not read the assignment, and 2, you did not write the response yourself. So, if I see that you've used an AI chatbot to create your responses, you won't receive any credit for it because, for all intents and purposes, you didn't do it yourself. So, if you use any kind of assistance like that, you will not be getting the benefit of learning how to be a better critical reader and critical writer. You have to do that all by yourself. So, we have a busy 5-week semester ahead of us, so let's get started. First, begin with the course overview, where it says start here, and read through the syllabus and take the syllabus quiz. You can take the syllabus quiz as many times as you need to get 100%, so make sure you do that. Then, introduce yourself in the introductions discussion board. Tell us what year you're in, where you're from, what you like to do in your spare time. Also, tell us what you look forward to learning in this class. What do you think this world literature class is going to be about? Next, start working on Module 1. So, there is 1 module per week, and each module is full of readings and activities to do after you do the readings. So, Module 1 focuses on the European Enlightenment. The Enlightenment is a phase, an era in European thought and literature that focuses a lot on the use of reason. The Enlightenment philosophers often argued that people should think for themselves and use their own reason to figure things out. The Enlightenment used a lot of satire because writers wanted to point out what was irrational about certain practices and elements of the society around them. So generally, the Enlightenment period is thought to be in the 18th century, meaning the 1700s. But we're going to watch a play by the French playwright Molière, which is from very early in the Enlightenment. Molière's play Tartuffe was first performed in 1660. So this is pretty early if we're talking about the Enlightenment. However, there are some important elements of the Enlightenment that we already see in this play Tartuffe. So first off, Tartuffe is a satire. And a satire, again, is when authors use mockery or caricature to make a point or to enact some social criticism, to criticize an element of their contemporary society or people in their contemporary society. The play Tartuffe is about a family in Paris who welcomes a stranger, that's Tartuffe, to become a spiritual advisor. Now, this was a practice in upper class households at the time. They would have like their own personal moral advisor or even a priest if they were wealthy enough to be the spiritual guide for the family. And Orgon, who is the father of the family, he wants his family to have that moral instruction at home, so he invites Tartuffe to stay with them. However, the family does not want Tartuffe around, and they think he's a fraud. So this satire mocks those who follow religion blindly, which is what Orgon does at first. Now, later in the play, in Acts 4 and 5, we see how Orgon learns his lesson and learns to not be so gullible. But for the first part of our reading, we're focusing on Acts 1, 2, and 3. So here, we meet the main characters. We meet Madame Pernelle, who is Orgon's mother. She is his, mean, strict, very religious mother. We meet Orgon, that gullible father of the family. We meet his lovely wife, Elmire, and then her brother, who is the rational one, Cléante. And we meet Orgon's children, his son Damis, who is a hot-headed young man ready to fight. And we meet Marianne, who is a very meek and very naive young woman. And then there's the maid. The maid, Dorine, is, I think, the highlight of this play. Even in scene 1, Madame Pernelle points out how Dorine is too outspoken for a maid. This character ends up doing a lot to move the plot along. And of course, Dorine the maid cannot stand Tartuffe. Then in Act 2, we see characters conspire about how to get rid of Tartuffe, and we see a terrible development happen for the young Marianne. Her father wants her to marry Tartuffe. That means that Tartuffe would become his heir. And then, in Act 3, after all of this commotion about Tartuffe, we finally get to see this character on stage. He appears with lots of religious props. He's wearing a robe of a monk. He has rosary beads, which are a kind of prayer bead. He has crucifixes, other religious icons with him. And he really puts on a show of how religious he is. So I want to know what you think of Tartuffe, and how can we know that he's faking it? So I look forward to reading your thoughts on the discussion board. After you watch Acts 1, 2, and 3, turn to the discussion board and answer all of the questions in your own words to the best of your knowledge. Also, if you like, you could go to the discussion board and read the questions first before you start watching the play. That way, you'll be able to keep an eye out for the answer to those questions. So, I look forward to reading your thoughts on the discussion board. I look forward to learning more about you in the introductions discussion board. And again, welcome to the course, and let's get started.